Hey gang, Max here. Wanted to get you up to speed on what we've been talking about at Generations Community Church over the last couple of weeks and where we're going over the next several weeks. In case you haven't heard, we've been talking about sex and sexuality. Yeah. Week 1, we got all the words out of the way, so now we're comfortable using those words in church. I want to remind you of some of the ways that I tried to unpack how our culture talks about sex and sexuality. I'll give you a couple right here. Our culture loves to talk about sex in terms of sex is an important facet for living a happy and fulfilled life. You want to have a happy and fulfilled life, don't you? Well, you need to be sexually fulfilled. If you're not sexually fulfilled, you can't be happy. Another way our culture talks about sex and sexuality is to remind us and to say in a very despairing way, relationships just don't work. They just don't last. So, you just got to do what you got to do. Because marriage, long-term stuff, doesn't work. Another way our culture talks about sex is to say, it's just sex, man. It's just physical. What's the big deal? Well, here's the big deal. Sex isn't just something physical. It's more than that. It's mysterious and it's more than we can account for, but we can certainly say that sex is a pathway to intimacy that involves all of us. It involves us emotionally, certainly physically. It involves us spiritually, psychologically. Sex is a big deal. And that's what we talked about in week 1. Just a couple of days ago, James did a great job reminding us of what we can do when we have voices in our head. Okay? So here's how this works, right? All of us have voices in our head, tapes that play over and over again. Most of us, the voices that we hear are negative. Most of us don't hear things in our head like, you're awesome, Max, you're great. Oh, and when we look in the mirror, you're beautiful. Most of us, the voices that we hear in our head are negative. They're things like, who are you to think you can be helping out with youth? Don't you remember what you did in high school? Or, you're broken. You're ugly. Who would want to love that? And we take that and we own it, and then it's this huge void in us because we want to be loved. We want to have that identity and that security in our identity. And so we with that void, we then go places trying to meet a need in ways that are not healthy, in ways that are sinful, in ways that lead to bondage. And so you want to get free of voices? You're going to have to be vulnerable. And James talked about confession, right? Within the context of a trusted community. And that's the other ingredient, is a trust. People you can trust, that you're in relationship. That confession and that trust, those trust relationships diminish the power of those voices. That's a very good word, because a lot of us could use some freedom from the voices that play in our head. Where we're going is I'm going to talk about sex and sexuality when it comes to relationships, and the title of our next message is Definitely Maybe. And that phrase right there in my mind kind of summarizes how we approach sex and relationships right now. Yes, definitely maybe. All right? And I'm going to talk about the idea of the perfect soulmate and all this other stuff. And I'm looking forward to it. So I hope you're having some good conversations at home. And I hope you're getting a little more comfortable with the topic in general. And I hope to see you this coming Sunday. And I hope that you are letting Jesus lead, because he has some good things to say about you and your future in him. All right, gang. I believe in you guys. And I hope to see you this coming Sunday.